Hello, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful event for celebrating the 1 year of APOSA, the APOSA Cosmic Meet 2022. Hi, my name is Alina Joseph, and I'm the head of external relations of APOSA. And as we have started this event, like I have mentioned earlier as well, we will be recording this event and we will be airing it on YouTube as part of documentation process. And while attending this event today, I'm extremely happy and proud to be called as an APOSIan. And I'm so glad to see a lot of familiar faces here today, from the friends and to the experts who guided us and advised us throughout this whole journey of APOSA. And for me, this 1 year doesn't feel like a 1 year actually. I mean, for me, it feels like more than a year. And the familiarity and the friendship that I share with the colleagues of APOSA is something that I will be treasuring for the rest of the years as well. And on this day, as we celebrate the first birthday of APOSA, I'm so grateful to have all of you presented here today. Thank you for joining this celebration of this small space family that we have become. And as you might have noticed on the posters that went out on our social networking sites as well, today, we will have the APOSA Annual Report presentation, an amazing panel discussion featuring distinguished guest experts from the Asia-Pacific region, and a new event that will be launched on behalf of APOSA. Yeah, we have prepared quite a lot today. And let's not delay the main programs with me just talking and ranting about things, right? So let's move on to the first program, like the APOSA, the Asia-Pacific Oceania Space Association, that we have started off last year on 26th June, completed a year already, and we have done quite a lot of things like from workshops to podcasts and whatnot, right? And I'm so happy along with the team APOSA to express this gratitude to everyone in supporting us, and also to tell the world the achievements that we have made so far and also the milestones that we have covered. It is my great pleasure to invite the chair and the head of research of APOSA, Dr. Sindhu Paramasivam, to present the annual report of APOSA 2022. Dr. Sindhu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alina. I'll quickly share my screen and then we can move along with the presentation. I hope you are able to see it, right? Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, you're able to see.
First of all, I welcome everyone who has spent the time to be here with us for listening into what we have been up to, and also for the amazing panel discussion and other activities that we have planned for today. And without further ado, I'll start with what we have been up to for the past 1 year. So we all met in APSUW conducted by SGAC in 2020. And then quickly after, we gathered together to do an IAC paper. While we were discussing, we realized that there is a lot more potential that we can do for the Asia-Pacific space community. And there was our beginning point. And we first conducted our event with the SGAC named Asia-Pacific Open House in June 2021. And then, I'm sorry about the date, year there. It's June 2021. And then quickly after the Open House event, we actually launched a Clubhouse platform named Space Smurfs to bring experts from diverse backgrounds and interact with the space community. And after our launch of Space Smurfs, we were given a great opportunity to be an observer and also deliver our first official statement at the 25th session of ICC RESAP by UNSCAP. Moving along, we also presented our paper on ASEAN space economy at IAC Dubai 2021. After our IAC, we also launched our first flagship event, Cosmic Sandbox, which is a multidisciplinary design thinking workshop in November 2021. It was conducted as a virtual side event of APRSAF 27, and we really thank the organizers of APRSAF for giving us this opportunity and recognizing us as a young organization. And we also had a chance to organize a panel discussion on climate change in Asia Pacific at the SPL working group of APRSAF 27 in December. And we launched Space Smurf Season 2, which is audio video podcast, along with a Clubhouse session in February 2022. We signed an MOU with London Politica for a research collaboration on political risk analysis of ASEAN countries with a focus on Earth observation, data sharing, and policies. And we had an amazing set of people coming in as our members in March. And we also conducted an onboarding event for team bonding and team building. And in May 2022, we conducted our second episode of Cosmic Sandbox on the topic Earth Observation for Earth Intelligence. In May, we were given a great opportunity to be present there as a panelist and as a keynote speaker in University of Tokyo for a 118th STIG seminar. We also thank the University of Tokyo and the organizers for giving us this opportunity. And in June 2022, of course, you're all here for the Cosmic Meet and our first anniversary. Moving along, I'll just give a brief introduction about the two flagships we have as part of our APOSA activities so far. And of course, there are many more to come. Keep a lookout for it. The first is the Space Mouse. The aim of Space Mouse is to be an online media channel to engage with the community and provide them a simple continuous platform to discuss and connect and discuss diverse different topics and also interact with the like-minded people and experts. This media channel is also focusing on engaging with the community continuously. You can find their posts, reels, and whatnot on different social media platforms, continuously posted across the week. The Space Mouse is also aims to bring awareness of the multiple disciplines in the space sector to the general public. So it's not only restricted to the space community, but whoever wants to know about space and what is happening in the space industry are welcome to listen in and also discuss with the experts. Moving along, the Cosmic Sandbox is designed to be a workshop to forge community of problem solvers. It aims at bringing this awareness of multidisciplinarity thinking. Whenever there is a problem, whenever there is a challenge, you need to have an overview of multiple disciplines involved to come up with a solution. So this is the idea behind the workshop. And what we try to do is to encourage the entrepreneurial spirit by making them to think about the problems, causes, and so on. Moving along, we also came up with a sort of a system to make things work and also have fun at the same time, right? So we have an active members of 19 as of today. We are really proud to have them all on board. And there is two main part of this activity that we host, right? So there is a board member group, and also there is an advisory. The board member, we have 5 people on the center, and then we have all the teams who are supporting us through all of our activities. There is 2 research teams, one working on the political risk analysis and the other working on Earth observation application. There is an amazing student outreach team who is going to be presenting soon. And then there is a Space Mouse team, which you all for sure know by now, right? And then there is all the beautiful posters that you see out there is done by our PR team and the design team together. And APOSA advisory team consists of our mentors who spend their valuable time to give us advices and coaching on multiple different activities and the strategies. Moving along, we had an opportunity to actually reach to almost 15 countries in the past 1 year. And this includes only our members and the participants of our activities. And by participants, those who are actively engaged with us for at least 2 hours or submitted us a research article, and not includes the experts. And we have established multiple different social media platforms in the last 1 year. And the breakdown of the follower details and the demography are presented in detail in our annual report. So I'll move along with the next section. Since bringing experts closer to the community is being one of our core agenda, we also reached out to diverse and interesting profiles in the past 1 year. And we had the opportunity to discuss with multiple topics from these experts. And we reached around experts from 18 countries, and few of them were even kind enough to actually give us featured articles for our annual report and featured astrophotographs that they took for featuring in the report. And all the details you can look into the report later on. Yeah. So apart from all these activities, we were also focused on documenting the knowledge that we have been collecting from these experts through a variety of activities, right? And the focus subjects are really diverse, from diversity inclusion to earth intelligence to space security. It just goes on you can see the colorful logos and the topics that are there. And what we also try to do is to consolidate this information and present it in different formats, videos, articles, posts. So I'll give a brief about what sort of things you can find out from our different channels, right? So firstly, our IAC paper, which we worked on reviewing the national space activities of the Asian countries. And then we also came up with 2 recommendations based on their motivation, the collaboration types so far that they have established, and also their vision, the countries that they have for their space programs or space activities. So the first recommendation was to have something like an ASEAN flagship space program that follows the structure of an ESA optional program. More details of how this can be structured is found in the IAC paper, which we will provide the link later on. The second recommendation is to have a space technology capacity building center. And by technology, it doesn't have to really mean only the technology, but also any kind of law and policy support or other aspects of space industry as well. It's basically the focus is on the capacity building center for knowledge transfer and technology transfer and whatnot, right? And this is another way that we are actually consolidating and posting the information, which through our SMERS session insights. You can find these posts and articles on SpaceMERS LinkedIn account, where we consolidate the information from their audio video podcast. And also our blog writer, does her own research and adds her own research materials into it for further reading. Moving along, this is a layout of how the sandbox structure is, and it varies with every theme that we choose. This is the first one, which is for Earth observation for disaster management and risk reduction. What you see here is just one session of the 4 brainstorming sessions. We encourage them to think about the challenges, what are the causes, and then come up with the solutions for at least 1 or 2 of those causes, right? And not just that, but we also ask the participants to submit research articles on specific perspectives, let's say law and policy or data or climate change. So they are encouraged to submit research articles on the particular perspective of those disasters. And it's also included in the annual report as a credit to those who have submitted us. And the whole workshop for this sandbox is designed and inspired based on the Sendai framework. Moving along, the second sandbox is for the challenge theme, EVO for Earth Intelligence. And this is a snapshot of how it looked. You can see that the 2 things are different because of the topic that we have. And in this sandbox, what we encourage the participants to do is to actually do a persona mapping and then think about a day in life in the community that they have took up. And they will have to discuss about the problems faced by this community. For example, in this case, farmers were the community chosen by the participant team. And then they chose this water shortage as one of they were trying to solve in that workshop. And then goes the multidisciplinary challenge, like let them think about different solutions from the technology perspective, and then the challenges in the governance structure, and also what are the commercial solutions available out there to actually solve the issue. And all the time we have this element of climate change being included in the perspectives to give an emphasis on how this climate change is being linked to the overall theme of the sandbox. And the mood board you see here, it's a very interesting piece which you will have to join the workshop to know more. Up next, we have our multidisciplinary design thinking workshop on the challenge theme, establishing sustainable lunar colony in collaboration with MBA India. And we also have our research team working on National Space Activities Review, which will be published as a research book in October 2022. We are aiming to consolidate information from around 10 plus Asia-Pacific countries. It's not just Asia-Pacific though, we also try to include Oceania countries. And we have been actively also trying to reach out to the Oceania countries as part of our activities, because we believe that they are underrepresented in many forms, right? And we are, last but not least, this is the most important and exciting section for all of our APOSA members. And At APOSA, we believe that we are here today because of all the members who are with us today and who have been with us in the past as well. And we take this opportunity to celebrate their individual talents and their personal endeavors because we believe in growing together, right? And in our annual report, you can also find articles, poems, and hobbies, passions, their other personal endeavors where they are leading multiple different roles, and those information in the report. And you can see how colorful this section is going to be from the right side of the presentation, right? And yeah, we have an art wall as well and a meme. So yeah, do check it out when you see the annual report, right? And finally, as the chair of APOSA, I hereby declare the release of our annual report 2021-2022. And I really am grateful for the report team, the design by Alina Joseph, chief editor and editor Max and Quentin respectively. And the cover image credit goes to our in-house expert Space Smurf podcast host, Pooja Tolia, who has an amazing astrophotography account in Instagram. Do check it out as well. Yeah. So if you are interested in our activities, or if you want to know more about what APOSA has been up to or what it's going to do, please do feel free to contact any of us in any of our platforms. Thank you so much. And over to you, Alina.
Thank you so much, Sindhu, for giving us such a very insightful presentation about what APOSA did in the last 1 year. And yeah, I mean, I shouldn't be saying this because I knew what exactly APOSA was doing. But yeah, for the audience out there, we have shared the link to our report on the chat. You can definitely go through the report and see what are the activities that we have done in the last 1 year, actually. And like Sindhu mentioned, please do check out the dedicated section for celebrating APOSA members' individualities as well. And I can admit it anywhere, anytime that Team APOSA is indeed a bunch of very talented people for sure. And yeah, and now we have a lot of people on this event meeting as well. And I would like to mention this one thing, that APOSA came all through this way. And we are celebrating 1 year today because of the continuous support and guidance that we received from our friends and the experts that are there in the space industry, and also from the rest of the people out there. And we hope to receive the same support and guidance as well in the future APOSA endeavors also. And together, we hope that we can create a peaceful regional space domain through friendship and collaboration, like how the APOSA vision mentions, right? And with that mention, let's move on to the next program, which is the highlight of today's event, right? Like so far, we have celebrated the activities of APOSA. So now let's celebrate the need for multidisciplinarity, or the multidisciplinarity in the space sector. And throughout the activities that APOSA have done, let it be through the workshop or the research activities or anything else, we have tried to bring in that concept of multidisciplinarity into the space sector. And as someone who is also leading the podcast team of APOSA, the Space Smurfs, I always say that this pre-constructed notion that space is only about technology, I mean, space technology and building rockets or rocket science, I mean, that's not exactly true, right? I mean, space domain today has become a perfect melting pot with all the different perspectives, from technology, of course, to astrobiology, space architecture, and space medicine, whatnot, right? And I'm really honored to invite Dr. Quentin Vespiran, the Chief Research Advisor of APOSA, and the distinguished panelists for the panel discussion on the topic, multidisciplinarity in the space sector. Dr. Quentin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alina. And I mean, first of all, I would like to congratulate the team for what APOSA is and for the extraordinary year that you made with APOSA, and also all the preparatory work before you created APOSA. And I want to insist on that because to explain to the other participants, I had the chance to meet APOSA before it was APOSA. By that, I mean that they mentioned that they first met during a working group, during a regional event, and I was the moderator of this working group. And I witnessed the beginning of this incredible dynamic between the members of this team. And I think it's truly amazing to see how they managed to continue after that, keep the motivation, even though it was not always easy. And many of you may know that creating such an organization is really complex and time consuming, and you don't always receive all the help that you deserve. But they have made it, and I'm truly amazed by that. And I'm really grateful that they asked me to join them and participate in what APOSA is now and what it is becoming. And so, and of course, I mean, the great leadership of the board need not be reminded again. In particular, I would say Sindhu and Alina have done a tremendous job. So after this due congratulations, why this panel? So as Alina explained, today's panel will focus on multidisciplinarity, which is one of the main themes of APOSA overall. And it is important because the audience of APOSA is mostly composed of, I would say, students and very early career professionals who are at the stage where they are wondering, you are wondering, how to maximize your chances of having an interesting career in the space sector. Should you become a specialized expert? Should you try to discover as many aspects as possible of the space sector, not only engineering and science, but law, policy, sociology? What are the pros and cons of both approaches, becoming a very specialized expert or a more generalistic kind of person? How are these multidisciplinary profiles recognized in the industry, in the government, in academia? So basically what I would like the panelists to do, and you through the questions that you will submit, is to try to have a very frank and practical discussion on these various questions, providing you with really actionable knowledge, so that then after this panel, my hope is that you have a clearer view of what you will do in the future, whether you want to go towards the highly specialized expert way or more generalistic profile, or some way in between. And to answer this question, so the panel will be organized as follows. We'll first have a series of guiding questions that more or less are the questions that I already mentioned. And then, and I think it's the most important, we'll have some Q&A time, during which you will be able, all of you, to submit your questions to the panelists. To keep it organized, and also because some of you may have similar questions, I encourage you to put the questions in the chat, and then I will manage to ask most of them, or at least combine some of them into coherent themes. And so yes, so do not hesitate at any time to put your questions in the chat. I will make sure to keep an eye on them. And so, as I said, we have 3 exceptional panelists today. So let me introduce them briefly. I think you can have more complete biographies on the internet. So let me introduce them briefly, and let's move right on onto the discussion. Our first panelist, Dr. Kate Kitagawa, is the director of the Space Education Office at the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. JAXA's Space Education Office develops learning programs for children and students, provide training for teachers, and organizes extracurricular activities for families. It actively participates in international conferences and develops partnership with a broad range of educational institutions, museums, youth organizations, and community-based learning groups. And I have the chance to be working with Kate on several of these topics, and I'm really glad that you're here today, and you will learn a lot of things from Kate. So thank you very much for being with us today. Our second panelist, Professor Greg Lee, is the founding chairman of Orion Astropreneur Space Academy in Hong Kong, which is a leadership development academy for entrepreneurs in space. As an adjunct professor at the University of Hong Kong, he has been teaching entrepreneurship and corporate governance, and starting in 2020, astropreneurship, which will, I'm sure, interest many of you. So thank you very much, Greg, for being with us today. And last but not least, Professor Kazuto Suzuki, my esteemed colleague, Professor Suzuki, is a professor of science and technology policy at the Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Tokyo, and a senior fellow of the Asia Pacific Initiative, an independent policy think tank. His research focuses on the conjunction of science, technology, and international relations, subjects including space policy, non-proliferation, export control, and sanctions. Thank you very much, Kazuto, for joining us today. So, as you can see, we have a very diverse panel, experts from the government, from academia, from the industry, all of them having some way a foot in all these categories. So they are also amazing examples of multidisciplinarity. So just by listening to them, you will learn to value multidisciplinarity. But so the way I will do is I will ask basically the same question, 3 rounds of questions, the same one to each of the panelists, and we'll go over one by one so that you can give me your thoughts on these questions. And I think the best way to start is by asking you, what is your understanding of multidisciplinarity? Because that's the words I've been using from the start, but I've not defined it. And I won't do it. I'm expecting you to do that. So what is your understanding of multidisciplinarity? And why do you think it matters in the space sector to cherish multidisciplinarity? And is the space sector unique in that regard? And let's start with the order of presentation. So we'll have Kate first, then Greg and Kazuto. So Kate, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. So I'll start. And this is like a really interesting topic. And this has been my favorite topic of discussion for years. So I'd be really happy to participate in the discussion, and also be really lovely to hear what you think about this topic as well. So first of all, I now head the department that deals with space education. So education, broadly speaking, is all about multidisciplinary. So it's not just about teaching math or teaching engineering, but it's just more like a versatile approach that we must take. So for education, multidisciplinarity is a must. And I think, it's for that, the STEAM or like an approach to become like, more generalist is a goal for us at the moment. So that's really like, something that I could see from the side of, space sector and also space education in general. But thinking about my own experience of being in academia for about 10 years, and also I worked at the government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So just seeing like, reviewing my own career, I think it worked so well to really see, multi-side of how the world works. So it's not really just about the fields and then we just tackles on. But after graduation, I really recommend all the youth here to experiment and then try to see what kind of jobs that you could tackle on. And later, don't be afraid of changing your career or seeing, what you are talented in. So that's just from my business side and also my personal side of opinion on multidisciplinarity.
Thank you. And yes, indeed, you add a very important dimension, which is not just multiple fields, but multiple environments, organizations, and ways of thinking entirely. Thank you very much. Greg, what is your assessment and your impression on multidisciplinarity?
Okay, let me add into addition what Kate has said. I don't want to repeat what she said. When I first heard of this word, it's a strange word. It's a mouthful. I wear many hats. Since at my age, we do different things. So I'm in academia, I'm in government, I'm in startups, I'm in venture capital. So I guess that's how I spend my time goofing around. And that's part of it, because you learn from what the other side's doing, and that adds value to what you're doing. I guess this term started at a university. And if you think about it, it's like one department talking to another department. And that's called multidisciplinary research. And we understand the reason why, because they're expert in their own very deep silo, but sometimes they need to get up and stick their head out. So I guess my first reaction is like fishes, swim in the water thinking this is all to life. If they ever fly out from the ocean, they'll see there's another world out there. And seeing space, that opens my mind and opens many people's mind. It's not easy, because when we talk about space, the first reaction is you must be crazy. You must be on another planet. And then when you cite some numbers and tell them what's going on recently, and they slowly come to your side, and they begin to listen. And since I also teach complexity and chaos at university, we are at the edge of chaos. So this is a science term, okay? So you get the most innovation at the edge of chaos. And you also have the most disbelief. And it's interesting because of what we're doing, what you're doing. I'm very amazed at, congratulations to what APOSA has done in only 12 months. We at OASA, we're almost like your twin brother or sisters. We're about a year old as well. We're slightly different in what we want to do, but you can see the synchronicity. Okay, the same thing happening in different parts of the world coming together. A new consciousness, I would say. So that is what is in it for me. And part of it is linked to ESG. You probably heard of this. ESG is huge. We heard of circular economy. And we are able to understand climate change because of satellites, right? Before, we don't know, or we choose not to know. So by looking and seeing a different world, we begin to appreciate things can change. So that's all for me. I'll pass it on to Professor Suzuki. I'm sure he has a lot of things to add and wrap it up for us on the first question. Okay, thank you, Quinton.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'm sure he has plenty of things to say about the topic, as probably the most knowledgeable political scientist in space engineering that I've ever met. So obviously very deeply into interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarity. So Kazuto, what do you think about this topic?
Right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for
sorry. I'm really sorry, you are muted, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Got it. So, well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I also add to the congratulating the APOSA to achieve such a wonderful achievement in a very short time with a very few people. And I think I'm currently involved in starting a new think tank. So it's an encouraging sign that, that there are a lot of things that can be done. I think when I'm thinking about this multidisciplinarity, I have been always the political scientist, and I was trained as a political scientist, and I was starting this space. Well, I wasn't really a space guy until I started doing my PhD. So I was just only picking up the space as the sort of as an outsider, as a political scientist, to look at how issues of the space policy making is different from other policies. And then I realized that I can't really understand what's going on in space. So why debris matters, why different countries have different capabilities, why some countries choose, let's say, for the commercial side of the business, commercial side of space, whereas on the other hand, there are countries which are focusing on the security side of space. So there are a number of differences of the policy making, and these are related to the sciences. I mean, you need to know the physics, how things work in the orbit and beyond that. And you also need to know what space, what spacecraft can do. I mean, the engineering side of the space. So I think what I have been doing is that I still am, I think, as a specialist on the political science and as an academic, but at the same time, you happen to know so many other things, and you don't need to be the specialist of others, but at least you have to cover all these ideas. And at the end of the day, no one can build the satellite from scratch, and those who can build the satellite cannot build the rocket. So even if you say you are a space engineer, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can do both rocket science and the satellite engineering. So I think at the end of the day, the way in which you have to engage with space, you need to have certain entrance point that you stick to a certain discipline. In my case, it's a political science, and then you stretch out to the other disciplines. So I think it's at the end of the day, it seems generalistic, but at the same time, you maintain your anchor to your discipline and you become as a specialist. So I think it is not about the either or question. I think it's both being a specialist as well as try to enhance your knowledge and scope beyond your specialist your specialized discipline. So that's how I see the multidisciplinary.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, that multidisciplinarity doesn't mean doing a little bit of everything. This is probably not the best way to do, not the best approach, but rather enlarging, but starting from very strong foundations in one of these various disciplines. And I see the other panelists nodding, so it seems that they fully agree with that. And knowing all of you, your background and career, that seems to be the approach that you all followed. So now let's move to the second question. So we talked about how to basically, what is multidisciplinarity and how to kind of properly develop a multidisciplinary profile. Another question is, why would someone choose to do it? And is it, I would say, something that pays, not financially, I mean, but in a career, to have this multidisciplinary profile rather than to be a very focused expert? And for that, I would like to ask you, in your respective sectors, so academia, government, and industry, how is it valued to have this wide range of knowledge? Is it perceived as, don't lose your time on other things, focus on your own expertise, be the best at this, publish a lot on that? Is it seen as some kind of an open mind, and so it's valued? So I don't want to say one of you is more industry or government or academia, so I will ask really this question generally to all of you, because as you said, your expertise spans all of this. So I think let's continue the same order. Kate, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. I think it's a really interesting question and difficult to answer, but I think how I take multidisciplinarity, or the choice of doing that, as a spice of creating something new. So I think all of us have some sort of specialty, right? So like we have some strength in like one field or two fields, and then after that, we like to develop that to the next level. And for that, like some sort of specialty, which means you're learning from your colleagues, that has a limit. And then you have to reach out to the next, like sort of like different fields that you're interested in, and then try to get something more. And then from doing that, there will be, really something new created afterwards. And then that's, the great thing about multidisciplinarity. And I think that's why we really value that kind of activities going outside of, our comfort zone. So I think that's like something that I have been personally always doing. So I've been specialized in mathematics, but then I was interested in political science and then became a diplomat. And, just sort of like, sort of choice that I started to make by following my heart. And then, it was like inevitable in a way to stop that kind of passion, just something that you like to try. But then in the end, my specialty started to kick in and it tried to help my career moving forward. And then the same thing, like when I'm writing a book, I really think that, that's following my passion at that moment. But always the specialty is something that really like boosts up that opportunity. And the same thing for space education. We all have some sort of like, favorite subject to teach. But in order for us to really connect to the audience, we research the audience backgrounds or some sort of like, interest of the audience, and then try to connect with them by doing so. So I always take it like multidisciplinarity as not just a must, but I think it works as a spice. That's something like, creates something new, and it was just a magic. And I really a fan of it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. And actually a kind of corollary question to that I would like to ask, and so the same question will be asked to the two other panelists is, so in the development of your career, from the point of view of your employers, do you think they were primarily interested in your area of expertise, or the fact that you had this wide range of interest and knowledge?
Okay, my turn. Let me build on that, and let me come back to what Professor Suzuki said. I find in the many years I've been doing my work, the more you see, the further you see, the more multidisciplinary you are, the higher level you go. So when you're on the board of directors and when you're on advisory board, when you're ambassador, you see a different world, and you're able to understand and appreciate and translate what you know. Okay, so that's very important. The second thing is, I think coming back to what Kazuto says, which is you have to have a very strong foundation of what you are, who you are. You have to build from somewhere. So he was a political scientist, where I've been a management consultant for 40 years. So I solve complex problems. And the more complex they are, there's a reason why they exist. So we have to understand many, many different angles. So I would say, seek to understand first before you're understood. Understand what brought up this challenge current today. And then using your expertise, try to find a solution that wasn't there before. Then test it, because that may not work. So there's a good word called ikigai in Japanese. I'm sure the two individuals can say it more better than I can. That looks at a world, you have to understand who you are first. Then you have to see what the world is good, what kind of question the world needs you for, and how you can actually make money for something that you would enjoy. So all these combinations have to come together. But the foundation is about yourself, something that you yourself are very good at, build from there, spread it out, and then help the world change what we call wicked problems. So there are many wicked problems in this world. I met an ambassador, retired, that came to me one day and says, Greg, we have the technology and the know-how to fix all sorts of problems. What we don't have is systems leader, people who understand the other side, such that you can actually solve the problem together. So I would say teamwork is a very important component. Teamwork meaning working with people from other culture, as we see in this group here. That to appreciate a different point of view is very, very important. I think we need more of that in this world and less of it in this world now. So that's how I would answer from that perspective. Now coming back to the original question, which is in each of the respective sector, academia, government, industry, I'll briefly touch on that because I was also in government. In government, you have to be fair to everybody, and you need to have that perspective. it's very difficult for government to innovate. You know, it's an oxymoron. You don't expect government to innovate. They cannot make mistakes. If you make mistakes, they lose a career. Very difficult. So you ask other people to innovate, NGOs or people at the edge to innovate, and that's what they're there for. So the other thing is academia. Like I said before, academia, we try to go very deep, and then we try to generalize that whatever theory we have applied to different things. And you know, sometimes you need to reach out and crisscross theory. So you know, in biology, for example, is a huge field where different disciplines come together. You know, we use the word ecosystem, for example, to describe something that we don't understand in science, you know, in physics in a different way. The last is industry. I think industry is where the what we call the rubber meets the road, where the market is demand. And there, the issue is fixing the problem is not so much about how much different things you know. It's how much different things you know can come together and fix a problem, which is what your supervisor, your boss wants you to do. So that is the most important thing. To fix a problem that no one else can, in a way that stays fixed. So these are why anybody would hire anybody here around this table, right? Because somebody out there wants a problem fixed, and you have a problem, and you see a problem differently, and you know how to bring the different people together to solve a problem, and so it stays solved. So that's how I would link the three. You know, each has a different way of looking at reality. I guess that's what we have, and I guess the higher up you go, the different world you see, and that's why the space is so interesting for everybody in this room. Okay, I'll keep quiet.
Well, thank you very much. That's really interesting to highlight, particularly these nuances between each of the sectors and indeed why it matters. Kazuto, so you also have an expertise spanning all sectors, but I'm quite curious in particular about academia. Because as Greg explained, academia really expects you to go very, very deep in your area of expertise. And that's also a question that applies to myself. So I am technically a space engineer who turned into political science for my PhD and now teaching public policy. And I'm always wondering how this type of profile is received for an academic career, not being an absolute specialist from the start, and then after you have more experience, you know, enlarging. And so I think, and I'm sure there are other people in the audience that may be following the same tracks. So changing fields during their studies, and how does it fit with an academic career?
That's a good question, and I can only talk from my experience and my observation. I think it is extremely important that you present yourself as a specialist in an academia. If you want to have the job at the university, then you have to, you know, demonstrate yourself that you are specialized in one discipline. Or perhaps you may say, you know, you have a, you know, you cut across several disciplines, but you publish journals in respected disciplines, and then you have to you know, present yourself in academic conferences. You know, you go to you know, associations of the, you know, international studies or international political affairs, or, you know, things like that. So there are a number of areas where you are required to be a specialist, but I think it is no longer the case today that those people who are having a very narrow scope of the research subject will be appreciated in the academic area. So you need to have some sort of an originality to find the research problems which cut across the different disciplines. So in my case, it was space. So I'm a political scientist, but using space as the as the case study for the policy makings, the international governance, and et cetera, et cetera. And that gives you a sort of a character that you are the political scientist, but knows about space. And that makes me valuable in the various other fields. And it extends to the a wider interpretation that I understand something about technology, something about science, and you know what. So, so I got the job in the United Nations as a panel of experts on the sanctions on Iran. So this is, again, the name says panel of experts. So you have to be an expert, but it doesn't really say what sort of expert that you need to be. And there are a number of experts, different countries, the experts on the customs, experts on the missile technology, experts on the financial sanctions, and etc. So I think this sort of your expertise is appreciated and will enhance your job opportunities, your potential employability. But at the same time, I think you need to have an open mind, and you need to be aware that, you know, there are even, you know, sanctions is nothing to do with space, or well, it has something to do with political science, but if you are serious political science and doing only a theoretical academic work, then you won't get the job at the United Nations. So I think this, if you are seeking the opportunities to work in these government, international organization, or businesses, I do a lot of consulting with other businesses. So if you do those activities, you need to have an open mind, but at the same time, you need to have your expertise. So in my case, I think I am valued as the person who understands the political science, but opens the research scope across the different domains. So I don't know if that's called the multidisciplinarity, but I think it is a cross-disciplinary activities is something that you put your value added into your research.
Thank you very much. And yes, that's a good point also just on the semantics, but do we talk about multidisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity? All of this have slight nuances that are quite important. But so before going to the third round of question, I would like to go back to Kate on this question. So specifically on reflecting on your career, what do you think were the elements of your expertise that mattered for the development of your career?
I think, yes, thanks for coming back to me. I mean, it was really interesting to hear about what Dr. Z and Kazuto said about, you know, their views on multidisciplinarity, you know, talking about, you know, looking at things, you know, like as an overview, like, you know, from the space. That's really interesting viewpoint, you know, that multidisciplinary can cultivate. And also, as Kazuto said, like originality, you know, that comes out of it. That's like quite interesting. So looking back, I think something that I learned from learning, you know, or, you know, taking out the multidisciplinary sort of like, you know, career is the ability to question things. So I think what I'm really like learning from, you know, changing, you know, fields or meeting the people from different fields is the way of asking questions. I think that has been building, you know, my capacity and then making me move forward. So I think it was something that I did not really, you know, realize just by specializing my own topic. So that was just a personal sort of sense that I like to add into this. And also when it comes to the job, I think it really depends on how people present their careers. And then if they say like, you know, there are two or three multi-disciplines that they walked over. When I asked like what kind of moments that they changed their interests or the jobs, then there is always interesting stories behind them. And I think by hearing them, we really get to know people, to the core. Even the interviews 10 minutes, that critical moment really changed their lives. So I think it was really, my great experience of, interviewing people for jobs and also like, learning from this experience. So I just wanted to add that too. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And so now for this third question. So as I said, first we wanted to understand what is basically multidisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity. Then secondly, how it is valued in various sectors. The third question now that you started to answer is how do we develop a profile like this that has this strengths, this foundation, this expertise, but that progressively help develop some originality, to quote Kazuto on that. So in in these respective sectors, how can someone, either a student or someone who is already in the industry or someone in the government, develop this multidisciplinarity? And this is one of the questions that we received in the chat in the case of students. So I think probably academia has more flexibility to help you develop various aspects, but that potentially may be more challenging when you're in an industrial or governmental context. So I think really for this question, I would like you to give some kind of tips, really some kind of actionable things that our audience can follow, and what are the ways. Also, I mean, you don't have to invent. You're all examples of this. So how did you develop this multidisciplinarity? Through formal learning, through discussion with experts from different fields, by joining associations, conferences, any kind of scholarly society. So again, starting with Kate, reflecting on your personal trajectory, how did you do that?
That's a really interesting question. I think at some points I was impressed by, say, people's speech, for example, and then got involved in this topic and tried to get, answer my own answer. And that was one point that I wanted to learn the new subject. The same thing, like, looking at the teacher who was really inspiring, that would be the similar thing that, just like speakers or some sort of like touching the topic that I'd like to think more about. But at the same time, I think one thing that I noticed was that there's always a project that gives me the next thing to do. And then that's not always something that I've been learning about. So, that moment of completion of project is the time that I always sort of changed the field. So I think, sometimes, the project can be long, right? Like it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. But I think having a short-term project that makes us reflect who we are and what we want to do next, I think that kind of transition really helps. So I think I recommend the people to have short-term projects and then to see where you are right after. And then that will give the next sort of push to go for like something new, like you're done with this. So like, you can go ahead. And then from that point, you could use, your specialty, your special skills, but on top of it, you'll meet new people, then that will lead you to the next sort of step. So I think always to have the short-term project that will give us some sort of motivation to learn new things after completing it. Thanks.
I think that's a very, very useful and concrete advice that you gave, and that personally resonates a lot with how I came to shift my field from engineering to policy. And I know some of the people in the audience had similar experience by basically doing engineering studies and starting to look a bit at, okay, how does it fit with the current regulations? How will it improve let's say, the development of this or this country that use this technology? And through that, you progressively discover another field, and it helps you smoothly kind of shifting potentially between fields. So yes, I strongly support what Case just said. Try to engage in as many projects as possible to discover various facets of your topic. Greg, the floor is yours.
Okay, I just want to say first, I like the way that you layer the questions. So each one will go much deeper. So let me try to reflect on what Kata said. I think what you said about asking questions, that reminds me of a story when I was young. And my mom just said, you know, you ask a lot of questions. And, you know, we all very, you know, inquisitive. So we ask a lot of different questions. And I would say that the higher level you go, the better question you should be able to ask. And the power of the question can change the discussion. And that's key. There's one question up there that talks about leadership and follower. Whether you don't want to be a follower, you might as well be a leader, or vice versa. But it is more, I would look at that differently. Now, if you want to solve an issue and you have a different perspective, you need to speak up. You know, there's a value at McKinsey that says that if you have something to say, you need to say it, but you need to back it up with data. If you don't say it, that means you shouldn't be in this group of discussion. But if you have something to say, you can even disrupt a chairman. Okay, so bear that in mind. But I'd like to come back to some of the things that you asked. What are some tips that we can give to the young people? The tips I would say is travel, see the world. The more different people you meet, the more different culture you understand, the more you get to appreciate life. The other is learn a language. You know, if I have time, the next language I'll pick up is Japanese. But I don't think I can have that much time because I'm studying law now as part of the fun. But that's after I finish my Buddhism class. So there's so many things that I like to explore, but there's not enough time. And I found that you have to be very good at what you do. Whatever it is that you do, you love doing, you got to be very good at what you do. That way people can engage you in a topic and get your help on. So what I do, what I've known that I'm good at, is fixing corporate governance. So because my teacher, he invented the term, my professor, my sifu, okay, so he taught me how to look at it, and that I like doing that and begin fixing board of directors. So we did projects around the world, and that was a lot of fun, and that allows me to meet different people. And different people, I learned a lot from the people I interview. And it's so exciting because they see it entirely something different. So I would say be very good at what you do. And then eventually, when you get to a very senior level in any position in an organization, you need to understand how to leverage the strength of other people, right? Because you can't be a super person, Superman or Wonder Woman. You got to know who's very good. So now I know that if I have a political space question, I can go to Suzuki. Or if I have a policy question, I can go to Quinton, right? So now I have two individuals that we can come together and work on the problem that wasn't not solvable before. So another tip is, in my career, I always want to do a lot of different things. So you always try to be a leader in an NGO. And that is a very interesting development, because in an NGO, people don't have to listen to you. They say, who are you, right? I'm a volunteer. I don't have to follow your rules. And you have to learn how to convince them based on the merit of your argument. So, you know, and do something that you love to do, because when you do something you love to do, other people will come towards you, and naturally you become a leader in the field that you want to do. And you're no longer a follower. And so it's not an issue about following and leadership. It's like assuming you only have limited time. What do you want to do, spend your time on? And if the time is worth doing, people follow you. Say, hey, that's a good idea. And then you follow him back. That's a good idea too. Why don't I jump on your ship and then we do something together? So that part of it is travel. Part of it is learning a different culture. Being an NGO, try to lead an NGO that you can participate in. And I remember the things you do as an NGO. Don't just volunteer. Get on to a leadership position so you can influence that direction in something that you really want to do. So I hope that answered the question that you posed me to ask. Okay.
Oh, that's really excellent, and I'm glad we have a recording because you gave so many excellent tips, and I just want to emphasize one that I like particularly is the kind of the understanding that developing a multidisciplinary profile is not just about being able to do everything, but having the ability to interact, understand, and link people who have this expertise. And I think that's a kind of external also approach to multidisciplinarity, that you don't have to be good and know everything, but have your network, have your friends, and know how to pull all this idea together to generate some form of transdisciplinarity.
May I close with a analogy to close the story? So the story is you want to get to the top of a mountain, right? And it's pretty high, pretty far. So you can't do it by yourself. So you get a team, right? And you're going to be very good at what you do, because if you don't get to Mount Everest within a certain time, you may just disappear, blown off the mountain. But the key is, once you get to the top, when you look down, you find there are many ways to the top of the mountain. Okay, so you have to build the foundation that you have. You have to work with others to get that foundation. When you get to the top, then you begin to open up and see there are other ways of solving a problem. Okay, hope that helps.
That's a really beautiful metaphor. So now, Kazuto, same question, so some tips on how to develop multidisciplinarity.
Right. Well, it's always difficult to speak after Gregory, and he has this wonderful poetic explanation of the beautiful expression to describe things that I want to say. So I would say the multidisciplinarity is the result rather than the objective. You don't try to be the generalist, or you don't try to be a multidisciplinary person. I think I myself was a product of my interest and my curiosity, and I wanted to do something that is interesting. And eventually, I have to learn the different things in order to understand what I want to know. So I think I think the best advice that I can give the students is that, if you are a student, then try to be somebody who can identify yourself as a discipline, but maintain your interest to other things. And then follow your heart and follow your curiosity and try to learn something beyond what you learned in school and what you get in your degree. You can be a master degree on the political science or PhD in economics, but don't stick there. Try to use that as a platform to learn other things and to explore the other disciplines, other issues that interest you. So if you are interested in space, try to learn something about the physics, and that can be done. And you don't have to be a expert in physics. You don't have to write an academic paper and give the presentation at the academic conferences, but at least try to get the knowledge that you can talk to those people. I think I fully agree with Gregory that you need to have team, and you need to have this, you need to have a network of people. But in order to communicate with other, people from other disciplines, you need to have the knowledge of what space physics do, or what the space engineers are going to say, or what the space economists will be interested in. So I think you need to have this wider scope of interest and try to learn a bits and pieces of many things, but at least try to, you don't have to be the expert on many things. All you need to do is that you have to have this foundation of yourself and identify yourself by, in my case, a political scientist, but I can talk to the space engineers like Kantan or Nakasuka Sensei, or other people who are working in the satellite industry or rocket industry. That doesn't mean that you can do exactly the same thing that these engineers do, but at least try to have a vocabulary, try to have the logic that they, how they think, and try and understand the, how things work in the different domains. So, so what I suggest for the students to do is to maintain your curiosity and fascination about space while you are staying in your discipline, and try to be somebody who can identify with your basis of your knowledge. So that's that perhaps is the best advice that I can give. So for students.
Thank you very much. And I think all of you used the word curiosity, and I think this is really key. And that's always something that, usually in most countries you have a lot of proverbs, and curiosity is always associated to very negative proverbs, actually. In English, in French, my own language, there is the saying that is often said to kids that curiosity is a really bad flaw. That's the most stupid type of saying you can hear. That's entirely wrong. Of course, mind your own business, but be curious about issues, topics, history, science. And the other very important take from also all of your explanations is trying to understand the vocabulary and the mindset of people in other fields. Because not caring about that can lead to pretty awkward situations sometimes, and you can see worlds clashing. I still remember a personal anecdote of, it was a government meeting, the government of Japan, so it was mostly mid-aged men, bureaucrats, high-ranking bureaucrats, that were given an explanation about a new business by a Japanese businessman who was talking about a new product they were developing. And this businessman was making a presentation that was, I will of course not give his name, but the most cliche type of MBA presentation you can see. And they were speaking the same language, but I could see that they were not understanding each other. Like the bureaucrats were, what is he talking about? Who is this person? And it was the same language, the same culture. They were probably all born in Tokyo and studied probably in the same university, but the language was so different that they couldn't understand each other. And so I think something you should try to do is try to basically avoid this clash of different worlds, different sectors, and understand each other's perspective and adapt to your audience. Before we move to the questions from the audience, I would like to ask if any of you has additional comments on any of the 3 rounds of questions, something that you would like to react on based on what others have said. I will give you a few seconds in case one of you want to unmute and start saying something. Or if not, then we can move to the, great, yes.
Okay, just Professor Suzuki stimulated some thought, a side thought I had. So the issue is being a journalist or a specialist, right? And I found in my life as an entrepreneur, I'm like a fish. It's very difficult to describe what I do. And this is not something that I encourage you to be, because you need to have a positioning in your mind. So when people refer to you or you refer to others, oh, I'm one of these. Okay. Now that's good or bad. It's good and bad. It's up to you. Some people, because they don't know who you are, you only have a few seconds, and people usually ask, what do you do? And when people ask me that, I sort of, I don't do anything at all. But you should have a pretty good idea of what you want to do, like to do. So political scientists are very good. And that's what we call positioning in marketing. And you need to have that. But I don't. Okay. So that's okay, because I'm an entrepreneur. And what is that? So an entrepreneur is a generalist. An entrepreneur is someone who needs to solve problems 24/7. There's so many problems. You don't have time to solve all the problems with the best tools. You just get it fixed, because you got to get something done. Otherwise, your company closes down. And that is something that is a balance. It's always that balance you need to find. And part of life is going through this balance. You know, what do you want to be, this side or that side? And you find that this journey makes it more interesting, because opportunity opens up. An entrepreneur does something and a new business operates, is there. So as an example, as I was saying before, I fixed board of directors. I designed them. And over the years, because you design so many, people start coming to you, and families come to me. So family businesses, right? Very complex, or NGOs, or even government. And you need to dig even deeper. Then eventually I said, oh, I'm getting too old for this. So I said, I'm going to start playing with space. Then a Japanese family came to me and says, Greg, I want my family to be there when we have a moon base on the moon. Okay, now that triggers something. Oh, that's interesting. So why don't I focus my governance business around family business that has a future? And instead of me doing it, why don't I mentor other people to do it? All right, I'm not going to be around all these years. So part of the things that I've been doing is now I'm mentoring. So, you know, the old saying, if you don't know how to do, you teach. If you don't know how to teach, you consult. I said, that's not fair. So I do all of them. So I do all 5. So in different time, different paces. And by doing that, I learned that I actually can evolve into a different level. So I teach, right, which I do at the university. I mentor young people in the same field that if they want to be. I coach young people if they don't want to be in the same field. And also execute, that's doing, okay? And when you're doing things like that, you learn new things. And so, you know, that's how I do what I do. But I don't recommend that for others. You need to have a position yourself. Okay, I'll shut up. Sorry.
Yeah. No, Gregory, I think that's a well. I think you enjoyed your life, and I think this is a great life, and I wouldn't deny it. I mean, what I said was just for the tips for the student, and that's the sort of an easy, sort of a, you know, stereotypical approach. And if you have the talent like yourself, then, you know, you can do whatever you want. And I think at the end of the day, it's, as you said, it's how to reach to the top of the mountain, you know, whether you learn, you know, some discipline, and then you move on to, you know, other things, and then, you know, you reach to the point. But you can wind, and, you know, you can, you know, have a long and winding road to reach to the top. I mean, that's your life. So basically, I don't think there's any right answer to this. I think, you know, that's why I fully agree that, you know, you need to talk to people. You need to see other people's life. You need to hear from other experiences, and that makes you think that there are different alternatives, different possibilities. I don't have my alternative life, so I can only say about myself, and you know, I can't really say, you know, I don't know if my life is successful, but at least, you know, here I am, and I can share what I've done. So if this is just to tell students that there are alternatives, there are possibilities, there are choices. And you don't have to do, I mean, someone feel comfortable with the Gregory's way, then, you know, the person will follow your path. And someone who feel interesting about my path, then he or she may follow my path. And one of the points that I like to make is that, you know, as a political scientist, I am a rare species in space. You know, the majority are engineers, you know, scientists, and few lawyers, perhaps economists, but not much political scientists. And that gives me a certain edge, and that gives me a certain added value. And I think, you know, people wanted to have the opinion from the different side, because if you are just, you know, cramming together with the same discipline, then you often lose. And this is what happened in the Japanese bureaucrats, like Kantan says, you know, they don't understand the language of the MBA people, because they are cramming, and, you know, they are so homogenized, and they don't really have the alternative method of thinking. But I, as an expert from the political scientist who understands space, may have some position to understand both the languages of the bureaucrats and the languages of the MBA. And that gives me some added value to the society, to the government, to the businesses. You know, I think I can be let's say, an interpreter of the different thing. And that is because and this is my opinion, that is because I have my own discipline, and based on that, I can extend that to the, you know, different paths and understand how these bureaucrats are thinking, and how they formulate their preferences and their thinking, while, you know, I can also understand the way in which the people in businesses work. So again, you know, I am just simply giving my experience as an example to, you know, to think about, and I throw it in front of the students and see what is the best course of choice that all those students have. So I'll stop here.
Well, thank you very much. That's really, I mean, that's exactly where I wanted to arrive. Really discussing, you know, your life, your career, concretely, what are the issues or also nice opportunities you faced, and I'm particularly interested in what you mentioned about being the link between bureaucrats and the rest of the society, because this is exactly the trajectory that I had, in the sense that I said, so some people in the audience, my friend, know that, but my PhD was a big shift from space engineering, because it was mostly about bureaucratic studies. So understanding how bureaucrats think and make decisions. But that's extremely useful then to understand why such project gets funded or not. Why would governments sometimes decide to go this way in funding this type of initiatives and not others? And as an engineer, or someone who will lead projects in the industry, having this ability to know what could resonate in their mind, what are also their logics that may seem arcane, but that matter, because sometimes there are those that will give you the funding, the authorization, and so these kind of things are extremely important. At least in my personal experience, I felt it changed my world to understand how concretely they worked and what were their limitations and possibilities. But so now I would like to move to one question that I find, and I see the time is almost over, but you kindly answered already most of the questions. I would just like to ask the one from Jim Volpe on recruitment practices. And to sum it up, Jim points out potentially some differences of evaluation of multidisciplinarity between, let's say, Europe, Asia, even though putting Asia in a single category may be a bit excessive in the sense that China, Korea, Japan may have different views on that. But so you've also all worked in various settings. Would any of you like to comment on maybe regional differences on the value that can be given to multidisciplinarity? Any one of you can unmute and start with this tough question.
I think it's not about the regional. Of course, there is a regional differences, but I think there is much more deeper differences between the industry, startups, and the bureaucrats. The government, academia, and the businesses have quite different ways of recruiting people. So Japanese startup recruitment is more internationalized. It's no different from the startups in the United States or in Europe. But obviously the bureaucrats are different. I mean, each country have a different political system, etc. So if you want to be a bureaucrat, and perhaps it's a matter of a qualification, you need to be certain citizenship. You need to have certain citizenship. So that's basically the national issue, and there must be differences. But the academia is a tricky one. I mean, I think there are large difference in the recruitment in the Japanese universities and the American and European universities. However, I think that if you publish in English, if you have the certain recognition in the academic circle, then at the end of the day, it's the same. I think the entrance point, when you finish your PhD and how to get the job is certainly different, but I think at the end of the day, the academia is also it's based on the quality of your research, the originality of your idea. These things matters. So I think at the end of the day, there aren't much differences of the recruitment. Perhaps if you go to the traditional space industry like Mitsubishi Heavy, or if you try to compare with Boeing and Airbus, there must be a huge difference, partially because of the security matters, but also because of this, the recruitment processes and different culture. But startups, academia, I think there's more common than different.
I can see you're all unmuted, so let's go with Greg and Kate to finish this panel.
All right, may I jump in quickly? I think basically you have to look at the problem to solve. So the future problems to solve in the next few years, and you can see politics is going to be huge. Politics in space. So that's going to be a lot of opportunities for those young people. So stick around Suzuki, there's going to be a lot of interesting things. The problem to solve is something that that would frame the opportunities. The second is stages of development. In Asia, it's very diversifying, although geographically, there's not much change in temperature, but the culture is so diverse. And for example, when I was at American Express many years ago, the customer service at American Express in America, we have 200 people for one customer service department. A customer service with 200 people, in Asia, you will look after everything, at that kind of size. So it's very different in terms of depth and breadth. So in Asia, in space, the development is much slower than Europe or in America, So therefore, you need to be more generalist, know more different things, and look at where the opportunity lies. So, the opportunity lies in political space, part of it, or data's coming down. There's going to be a lot of data coming down, which is one of the economies, or rockets shooting up, which is a second thing. So there's a lot of opportunity in the area. So I would say, look at a problem to solve in general terms. then look at the stage of development in each of those areas, and that would pretty much help you see where you want to go. Okay, so that's it for me. And let me pass it to Kate to wrap it up.
Thank you. I'm just going to be real quick because I'm learning so much from both of you and also, from just being here. So thanks a lot. And then I think my only advice is that I just wanted to tell you that I failed so many times. The job market has been always hard, working in the US, working in the UK, Germany, and also I was in South Africa. And all the time I felt like, very discouraged. And, when I failed. But looking back, what I've gotten was really something that fits me the best. And sometimes the opportunity comes and then you want to really try hard, but, you just have to, know yourself and then just try not to be sort of like selling something that's just for the sake of jobs. I think you'll be happier and you just have a good life when you choose the job that fits you. So that's the only advice. Follow your heart and good luck.
And I couldn't think of a better way to end this panel. So thank you very much to our 3 exceptional panelists for this great panel. I think it was really, I like the fact that it was at the same time deep, explaining about background, various fields, but also very concrete. And I'm sure there are many very useful tips that people in the audience and later probably on YouTube can get. So again, thanks a lot, and please join me all remotely into uploading our great panelists. And sorry for being a bit late, and now over to you, Alina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quentin, and let me just figure out this. Yeah. So, it was such an insightful session, I will say. And like I mentioned, throughout this whole session, you didn't just talk about multidisciplinarity in the space sector, but also you gave small excerpts from your life itself, like your personal experience and what you have been seeing in the career, in your expertise as well. And thank you so much. And I have learned quite a lot from this session. Like, I've taken a lot of personal advices from you, and I will keep it on my mind when it comes to career building and someone who is starting the career and everything. And I think a lot of our audience would have felt the same as well. And thank you, Dr. Quentin, for moderating this session once again. And I know you are part of APOSA, but still, Team APOSA thanks you for the amazing moderation, and also the experts who have joined us for the panel discussion, Kate, Professor Suzuki, and Professor Greg. Thank you for joining APOSA's 1-year celebration. And now, as I have mentioned earlier, we will be sharing, or we will be launching the next flagship event of APOSA. And I think we can move into that part. And okay. Is it visible to everyone? Is it visible to everyone? Yeah, okay. Yep. So I'll just read through the slides. I'm really sorry, I apologize. I made the slides, but the thing is I couldn't add any background music or anything. So yeah, here it goes. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the 1 year of APOSA, but we are not done yet, right? And APOSA did a lot of activities in the past 1 year. And today, we are more than excited and proud to launch our next flagship event. Are you curious to know more about this new event by APOSA? Does anyone would like to take a guess? And if you are interested, you can use the chat box to do the guessing part of this, what this event is going to be about. Okay, I'll give you some clues. So the first one is, it is something relating to inspiring the people out there. That is one thing. And the second thing is that it is for the younger generation, mainly the student community, the university students and high schoolers mainly. Any guesses? Dr. Sindhu, can you please check the comments and let me know if there are any interesting comments in the section?
Sure. Yep, on it.
Okay, yeah. If you are able to guess, I'll just wait for 1 minute. You can just drop it, your guesses on the chat. Well, anyway, we will not make you wait for a longer time, actually. And APOSA?
There are a few guesses, Alina. Do you want to read it out?
Yes, I can't see the chat box. So Dr. Sindhu, please read it out for me.
Sure. So there is one guess, cosmic comic book. Spot on with free membership programs and internships, mentorship program, network for youth. Someone has commented the graphics is lovely. So yeah, that's it so far.
Okay, that's awesome. And I really like the cosmic comic book. Let's suppose see like if we can do something on that part. Like whoever that is, please do ping me up. Let's have a talk. We can definitely come up with something. Yeah. And so APOSA proudly presents to you. Oh yeah, you just have to imagine the drum rolls happening at this point. Not there yet. A little, okay.
Yep, go on.
Yeah. So now I'll share the podium with Chawalvat, also known as B of APOSA, the student ambassador from APOSA. B, over to you.
Okay, hello guys. Am I audible?
Yes, you
are. Okay. So how are you guys doing? All the participants? Are you having fun with the event so far? So today, let me introduce myself first. Hi, my name is B and I'm from Thailand. I'm currently a second-year student in studying nanotechnology engineering. And today I'll be presenting our new flagship event, which is Space Inc. or Space Inspirational and Nurturing Guide for Young Generation. Basically, the idea of this event is like myself as a student, I find it that it's kind of difficult to find an entry point to get involved in the space industry or just some kind of project. So in this event, it would be more of like a talk show from experts from all around the world, which they will be sharing their experiences or their story of how they get involved in space, or like how they begin at first, what is the reason why they are joining in space. And also they will be answering questions that maybe you would like to know about their work. Something like, how did you get involved in that thing? Or like, what was the first inspiration for them to think of joining that kind of program, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also to everyone out there, B is the youngest board member of APOSA. And this is his initiative to do something when it came to the student outreach department under APOSA. And me, as a head of external relations, I'm really so proud about this. And moving to the next slide, do you want to know who is the first speaker of this new event that APOSA just now launched, the spacing? Well, the first speaker is in the audience list as well. So I'm not going to let anyone guess. I mean, what if someone names me? I mean, yeah, jokes apart. Well, I mean, I have created a lot of suspense in this slides. It's Florence Pauline Basubas, and she's there in our audience today. And B, over to you. You can introduce her.
Okay. First, I would like to thank Florence for accepting the invite to be our first speaker on the first session of the event, and also she is here. So hi. Okay. So let me introduce her just a little bit so you guys can know who she is and what is interesting about her. So Florence is an early career scientist working on applying sustainability, education, and evidence-based policy making in the field of healthcare, environment, and space. She has had years of experience in both academia and industry in laboratory and field and in basic and applied research. She is currently one of the national point of contact of the Philippines Space Generation Advisory Council, and remotely leads the National Science Program and the National Space Education Program in the Philippines. And she currently works as a scientist, designing research to apply emerging technology such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain in healthcare, and has been working with various space medicine and space biology groups in Asia.
Yeah. And,
very amazing.
I know, right? I was about to say that. And as you might have noticed, Florence will be talking on this particular event, the Spacing first episode, on the topic space medicine. And she will be going and reaching out the younger generation out there who are interested to know more about the space medicine or the space domain in general, along with the team APOSA. And more details about this event will be coming out tomorrow. Kindly do share with your younger space community that you know about. And it would be really awesome for Team APOSA and also for the younger generation out there to get engaged with such an opportunity and to know more what is happening in the space sector. With this, thank you for staying back. I'll just stop the sharing now, and yeah. And now we are moving to the closing part of APOSA's Annual Cosmic Meet 2022. And now we have our Vice Chair of APOSA, Rungu, here to present her final remarks. Rungu, over to you.
Well, thank you, Alina. Now that we are at the end of this event, we would like to thank everyone that has supported APOSA throughout this year, our mentors who have been guiding us along the way, all the experts who have shared their bits of knowledge to us and our community, our partners who have supported and trusted us, and the organizations that recognize us in this early stage and shared their platform with us, as well as the volunteers that help us to build this community together. At last, we would also like to thank all the speakers and the participants that have come to today's event. We are so grateful to have you here to witness the growth of APOSA and how we contribute to the community. Multidisciplinary is one of our core values, and that's what we've done to this day and will continue to do so in the future. So if you want to be one of our volunteers, or if you have any ideas for future collaborative projects, please let us know. You can send us an email to reach out, or also you can send us a message on LinkedIn, APOSA's LinkedIn. Please keep an eye on our future activities, and we hope that we can meet you all again at another APOSA's event. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Back to you, Alina.
Yeah. Thank you, Rungu, for that concluding remarks. And thank you all for joining us. And I would really appreciate if any of the Team APOSA members have some comments to make. We did ask in the group last day about if you have some testimonials to make regarding working with APOSA or something. You can just use this session, use this stage right now, the platform right now, and raise your hands, and I will share the podium to you. Anyone? I think everyone, okay. All right then. Okay, yeah, Max, okay, yeah, please. Max.
Okay, thank you, Alina. Thank you so much to all the speakers who spoke today. It was a very thought-provoking session. And as a PhD student who's coming to the end of his studies, it also gave me some food for thought about what I could do next. So I would just like to congratulate APOSA again for really fruitful and event-filled first year. And I'm really looking forward to what will happen next. So congratulations again, and really looking forward to next year. Thank you.
Awesome, that's really great. I saw Namishka raising her hand earlier. Namishka, would you like to?
Hi, Alina. Yes. Excuse me for the noise, because I'm actually doing some travel right now. I'm in a bus. But I've been listening very carefully, like for the past few hours, about multidisciplinarity and everything. And there were really such good insights, and it really opened my eyes to some things. about APOSA, I am actually one of the new members. I joined recently in March this year as a social media intern for Space Moves. And what I can say is that even though I've been there like for the past few months, I have learned so much when it comes to making videos, making them interactive, and everybody in my team has been so supportive, and they're always ready to help, even if it's not related to the intern work that you're doing. If you need any other help, they'll just drop everything and they will help you with whatever you need. So a special shout out to all of my team members, Alina, Sindhu, Pooja, and Pratham.
I think your network, we lost you. I mean, is it just me or?
Helping me all along, and I continue, and I hope that I will be able to learn much more in this.
Okay, I think Namishka had an issue with the network, but I hope everyone else was able to hear. And we have Yui here. Yui is actually the very latest member of APOSA. She joined the student outreach team this month actually. And yeah, over to you, Yui.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the lecture. I really enjoy a lot. So hello, my name is Yui Nakama. So from the University of Tokyo. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to give some like short comment at the last of the event. And then I'm actually studying space policy under Professor Suzuki and Professor Bestfriend. So I was very glad to participate in this anniversary event today. And then so the Graduate School of Public Policy at the University of Tokyo is the like only place to visit space policy in Japan. So before I came to GRASP, I was very like strange space girl in the university, but like now I became some like normal student now. So I'm very happy to that. And then, so I met Cindy and Alina at the STIC event of the University of Tokyo. And then I joined the APOSA this month. And then I'm working in the new team, the student outreach with V. And then, so as I mentioned, like before I came to GRASP, like I really try hard to build some like space network by myself to join the like some event, and then also like the club activities named the SDF, and also have some interviews with the JAXA's person. So I hope I can contribute to make the Japanese networks for the new team. So yes, so APOSA activities are very like big step for me to achieve my goals. I mean, my dream is to like work in the overseas space industry. And also from next month, I will study in Paris at the Sciences Po. And also I will be attending the ISE this year. So hope to meet some of you. And so yeah, APOSA is very, very special place for me to like not only the team activities, but also like some event, and then like a very broad and diversified community. So thank you as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yui, for that beautiful message. And yeah, of course, I mean, I think of all the APOSA members should have a gathering at IAC. I mean, I heard a lot of other people are also coming there. So let's see how we can, you know, make use of that situation. But thank you so much. And now we have Pooja, my co-host of Space Moves. And yeah, over to you, Pooja.
Hi. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak, Alina. I am more than happy to say that I've been a part of APOSA. It actually started because I randomly entered a clubhouse room last year, and I attended a few of their sessions as a part of an audience. And it was very easy to just reach out to them and then become a part of the team. So from being at the outside and now being in the inside, I'd say that it's just been a very easy transition. Everyone is always open to hearing and learning from each other, which I think is the most important. And I think I specifically like the fact that there's also a lot of female energy, which is not always found in the space industry. There are lots of women leaders in the team, which makes it even more fun sometimes and more comfortable sometimes to begin with. So yeah, I just want to congratulate, and I'm very happy to be a part and continue to be a part of the team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pooja, for that beautiful message. And of course, I would like to have you as the co-host for next year as well. Let's see how we can do that in the coming season of Space Moves, right? And now we have Sneha. Sneha is part of the research team, one of the research team actually, and she is working with Sindhu and all. Over to you, Sneha.
Yeah, thanks, Alina, for introducing me. I had so much fun today, and congratulations to APOSA for their first year anniversary, and also to many more years to come. And I hope to be part of all their initiatives as well. And I learned so much from the panelists today, and that's like one of the most important things in APOSA. Like, you get to learn about so many other aspects of space, other than the aspects that you're working in. So yeah, and I hope to learn and share more with all the members of APOSA. I share the same experience as Pooja as well. Like, I came to know about APOSA from like a Clubhouse session, and I'm so glad I did that. And looking forward to working with you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Sneha. And actually, that's how APOSA grows, right? Like, we learn from each other. We just meet through all these space talks that APOSA, or the activities that APOSA had been doing in the last 1 year. And like I mentioned, we've learned from each other. Like, it's more like an interactive platform where we share similar ideas or dreams about aspiring into space sector and everything. And thank you so much once again for all the amazing individuals who joined us, and all the members of APOSA and our amazing panelists as well. And I will say it's time to wrap up this session, and I will see you all in the next event of APOSA. Probably it will be the spacing that will be featuring Florence. And till then, bye-bye.